let's take a look at the class schedule here, right? On our Blackboard. So we're pretty much on schedule. Project here's tonight, right? April 7th, project 3. Those are due tonight with also the project file. Um, and then we're going to start project 4. We probably won't get that done tonight, but I'm going to try to get us as far as we can on that. So we can at the very latest finish it next week, but it won't take all class. And then we'll, uh, move into some more technique. Because I want to budget some time tonight to talk about project 5. So you can start thinking about that. Okay. Because that's your final project. And that's the, in essentially, we don't have a final exam, so that's your final project. And that carries, I think, 60 points, and that can be up to 5 minutes. So it's kind of your, final uh, shebang there. Okay, so we'll look at the sheet, look at some materials, and we'll take a look at some excerpts of some of the samples that I have on Blackboard, and then we'll be looking at more of that. And that project in a nutshell has you can do pretty much almost anything. You can shoot your own stuff. You can combine some of these previous projects if you want to incorporate some stuff from project 2. You can use stills if you want to incorporate that, but you can use video, you can download video, you can shoot your own video, etc. Anyway, and then as we get past the next week or two, we'll jump back into getting into some of the graphic exports, the templates, and get into Adobe Stock, more technique. But you can see pretty much with tonight, the 7th, the 14th, the 23rd, 21st, we've got 5 more classes, including tonight. And then our final night, which is the 12th, we're just going to watch final presentations. And then we'll factor in watching project 3s over the next few weeks, so we'll watch, a batch one night, and then we'll watch another batch the following week. Okay. And then there's anything else. Yeah, so that's the breakdown. And we'll talk about project 5 a little bit more at the end of the night. And what else was I gonna say? Yeah, okay. So there's that. And I did post a bunch of Project 5 on Project 5 materials on Blackboard. I call this like the meat and potatoes edit, because we're going to use more news techniques, documentary techniques, and we're going to cut what's known as a soundbite. Everybody's probably heard of a soundbite. It's someone who's talking on camera. And that is a critical skill. This may not look too fancy compared to what we've been doing, but you can't call yourself an editor if you can't do this. And this is about 80% of what I do every single day. And once we start, if you want to jump ahead, that's fine, but let's all start together so we can set it up correctly the same way. So basically, these are the shots. We're going to string them together. There's your in and out points with time code, the names of the clips. And then here we're going to actually find the sound bite. I didn't give you time code specifically because you're going to use your ears, and we're going to use some techniques to like identify what this person says. And then there's a second part where we're going to do other things, and we're going to refine this. So the first goal is to create a rough cut, and then from there we'll refine it. Okay. Okay. And we'll launch Premiere. And this footage, in case you've already looked at it, this is not high def. This is a piece that I did at the school system. Let's go ahead and do new project before I talk too much. Project name. So this is not an exercise. So we want to name this like we're going forward with the project, right? So you want to use your first initial, last name, right? Underscore P4. And what else do I have you guys do? Like spring 2025, right? Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to do spring 2025. And then instead of saving it in your exercise, you want to save it in your project folder, right? In your project 4 folder. So I'm going to go there, right? So I'm going to go choose location, right? And let me go to my project D drive, my secondary drive, right? There's project 4, and I'm going to select project files, okay? And open. Okay, there we go. Save. So it's going to save in there, project files folder. Yep, there you go. And you should see that file path in your window. Create. And there you go. So we're not going to really use much effects. So if you're like, I can't find my effects, my effect controls, the effect controls will come in handy because we are going to do some keyframing in the timeline on audio, like we did a little bit last week. I showed you how you could do that. So yeah, you're going to use your main panels, right? Project source, program, timeline. The audio meters here will come in handy. And the tool palette, never a bad idea to have that handy. So let's go ahead and import those clips, import that media, right? And I have it in my footage folder, but if you have it just standing alone because it's already in a folder, that's fine, right? Select that and import your folder. And that will have all the clips. And there's also a music track in there, which we'll add towards the end. Okay. And then we'll expand that. And you're going to see a bunch of clips, a bunch of MPEG-4 clips. I'm going to just drag this column over so I can see everything. If you want to make the display a little bigger, drag this little ring, adjust the size of the icon so you can see the names of these a little bit. Okay. All right, so you can see they're all video clips, and then at the very bottom, depending how you have it stacked, let's pull up the script, which is right here. Okay. Hang on, let me share my screen so I can just include everybody. There you go. Okay. All right. So basically, first shot. So we're gonna place this on video 1 and audio 1, just like we did on project 1. So our first shot is called Caleb Teacher 2 shot, and the in point is 206 and out 901. And all of these clips start at 0, so it's pretty easy to time that out. Okay, so we'll open up. I'm going to just sort this by name. And this is Caleb Teacher 2 shot. Caleb is the student. Caleb Teacher 2 shot. It's right here. Let's open it up and just take a look at it. Okay. Again, these raw clips are not that long. This is just some footage of that's Caleb and his teacher. This was like around 2003.
So 11 to 15.
This was shot at Blake High School.
And then I told him 16 because 16 doesn't take
So
that
what
long.
did they have done? What did this person have done last week?
Anyway,
They
so
did-
you have some audio. It's that audio that you hear is called natural sound, as opposed to the audio that we're going to hear on the interview. And there's 2 terms I want to clarify as we go forward. And this is an old term that goes all the way back to the film days. It's called, there's 2 categories here that we're using. It's A-roll and what's known as B-roll. Okay, so the A-roll is basically the core content, the editorial content. In this case, it's going to be Caleb, the interview. And then the material that is supporting that, what he says, we're going to show action of him and students. That's called B-roll. And that goes back to film days when they would cut different rolls, and the A-roll would be like the main stuff, and then the B-roll would be kind of like this filler. Okay, and so audio that's on that B-roll is kind of known as natural sound. Finally got it working, had to extract. There you go, extract. I forgot that term. Yes. Okay, very good. So we're not that far. All right, so let's go back in. All right. So let's go ahead and do that time code here, which is 206, right? And remember, right, you can just type in because all of these clips start at 0. So just type in there and just do 206, right? It goes to 0206 as you see it in your script. Mark your, hit your I or mark in and out here, however you want. Once you've got that marked, go to this out point, right, which is 901, or you can also type in if you want 0901, right? Again, this is review. This is just like we did on project 1. Okay, now it's in. Now, instead of dragging it in, well, actually, let's drag the first clip in and then the next one will insert. Okay, so drag that first clip just to your timeline and the Premiere will figure out the settings. Okay, and we're not going to use a lot of layers here. We will use 2 audio layers, pretty much 1 video layer. Okay, so now you've got that shot. Kind of got this ambient sound. You've got this.
All I want to do is like get.
Okay. All right. So now let's go to the next shot, and then we're going to string these together. So you want your playhead to be at the end of this clip, right? Which you can use your arrow keys, right? That's my up arrow key. That's my down arrow key. Everybody remember those arrow keys? They're on your keyboard. And that just snaps the playhead to that next edit, right? Right? So if I do my arrow key, my up arrow, I got to make the timeline active, right? Go to the back, go up. And if you go down, the playhead is positioned at the end of Caleb 2's shot. Okay, so the next SOT, this is our first SOT, and SOT, right? It says SOT Caleb, right? You know what? Let me go back to the screen share so everybody sees it, even though I know you have it in front of you, right? So this is an SOT. SOT stands for sound on tape, right? We still reference tape, and that's what SOT sounds like. And it's also known as a soundbite. Sometimes a talking head because you're just going to see this guy talking in the frame. So let's click on SOT 1. So this raw clip is 11 seconds. Originally, these clips lasted like 30 minutes. So if you're just going to play it.
Okay. All right. As a freshman, when I came into high school, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was like pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it. But soon, like in 9th grade, we got to.
So the raw clip has more than what we need. We're going to extract or just lift the part that we want. So I've already figured out what we want. We already have the time code. So we just go to SOT 1, go to 1:15 or 1 and 15, whatever, however you want to look at it, right? It's a second and a half in. Mark your in point. Right? You go to the out point, which is 8:02, right? It jumps, mark it out, mark your out point. You can see that duration of this SOT is about 6 seconds. Now I want to show you, I should have gotten rid of this.
As a freshman, when I came into high school.
Yeah, let me delete this. I can't. I added this earlier. So I want to show you something where you can check your soundbite, right? You're probably seeing a little button that I have here at the bottom of the panel. I'm going to show you how to add that, okay? You're going to go here to this plus button, and it opens up this button editor, okay? And it's the play button, but it only plays the in to out. So you can double check your soundbite and make sure it's a clean in and a clean out, right? So I already have it dragged in, but you want to grab it and just bring it down. Anyway, it kind of added it again, but there it is, okay? And then hit OK. So now you've had that. And so now once you mark your in and out, if you want to check your soundbite if it sounds clean, click that and it will only play from the in to the out.
As a freshman, when I came into high school, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was like pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it.
See, so it starts at the bite and it ends at the bite. It only plays what you selected. So if you had done the regular play, it doesn't
As a freshman,
it
when I
doesn't
came
know
into high
that.
school, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was
It'll
like
play
pick up a
right through
camera,
it.
go shoot something, and have fun with it. But
So this is also a way to make sure that you cut a soundbite clean, right? So now, reiterating, the in point is 115, the out point is 802. Now, with your playhead in position here, and we did this on project one, let's go ahead and click insert. And your video one and audio one should be highlighted here because this is, I think we've talked about this before, that's known as targeting the tracks. Those are the target tracks. So when you insert, when those are selected appropriately, it puts the video on video one and puts the audio on audio one. Okay? So now you've got your soundbite, your first soundbite, your first shot, and of course your playhead repositions, right? Just like it did on project one at the end of the most recent clip. So I'm going to hit my minus key, click it here in the timeline. I'm going to demagnify a little bit so I got a little bit more room, right? So we're going to go to the next shot, which is Caleb. Somebody's got their mic open. Make sure you mute that. Okay. All right, here we go. So now we're going to go to Caleb teacher move, right? Which this actually has what we call a natural sound break. Sometimes we call that a nat pop. So Caleb teacher move. Okay. And that is 402. Hang on, Caleb teacher move. So it's this shot. So this tilts up from from action, right? And we're going to take advantage of when she says something.
this is your list.
Do they still have to capture more B-roll or they have enough?
Well, it's kind of hard for them to capture it, but they have.
Okay, so anyway, so that's the raw clip. So the end point on this is Caleb teacher move. The end point is 402. Right? And it starts right when she's like writing on this piece of paper. And then the out point is 1018. Okay. So you mark your out. So it's about, again, about a 6-second shot, 6-second shot. All right. And we've got our playhead at the end of Caleb 1. If you moved it, just reposition it. You could also, if you don't want to mess with your playhead, I can't remember how to get it at the end of the clip, just drag it down. You can just drag it, and then you can always do a ripple delete and snap it together. Okay, so that's other options, right? This should be pretty much review at this point, right? Because we're just building the rough draft. Okay, so we're going to go to the end of this clip. So we've got 3 clips. Right now we should be at about 20 seconds. Right? And the next shot is SOT 2 Caleb. Okay. So it's this shot right here. SOT 2 Caleb. Again, you can see it's just an interview. Just a talking head. And this endpoint is 123. Feel free to move faster than I am. If you just want to like string these together, that's fine. And the out point here is 1517. 1517, right? You hit enter, right? The playhead jumps to that time code and you mark it, right? And then it gives you the updated duration between that clip. So this is a little bit longer of a soundbite, right? I'm going to insert, boom. So he jumped behind that and then he created a little bit of move here. So I'm going to kind of create.
Professor, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I look at the I forgot what it's called, the project screen, like where it's like the full video. For some reason, all my videos are like minimalized. Is there a way to like automatically scale it when I add it to
The
the
project panel.
Yeah, to the project panel. Every time I add them to the timeline, they're like minimized.
So they look small here.
Yeah.
Did you, let me ask you a question. Did you create a sequence first or did you drag that first clip into an empty timeline?
Oh,
You may have,
I don't know.
here, do this. go up to sequence at the top
Okay.
and go sequence settings. And you
Okay.
should see, this should match what I have. It's 24 frames per second, but your frame size, because this is standard definition, 720
Oh, okay. 24
You're in
frames per.
HD, right?
Yeah, I think I had it on 29, the 29.97 frames per second.
Right, but did you, is your frame size 1920 1080?
No.
No? What's it saying here?
The frame size is 2560 and 1140.
Oh, that's big. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
I
create
gotta
a
make it
sequence
smaller.
first, right?
Yeah.
So what I would do is here's what you want to do. Keep those clips. How many clips do you have in your timeline?
I already put the 4 in that we were talking about.
Okay. Then let's do this. I'll guide you. Let's go sequence. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's go right click in the project panel, right click, new item. Let's go sequence. Okay. And
Okay.
we get all these sequence options. Let me see. It's not in broadcast. No, it's going to be down here. It's going to be probably down in legacy. Okay, legacy. And let's go down there's a lot here. These are, that's why Premiere is really good. Go to this middle one, DVNTSC,
Okay.
expand that, and you should have a standard 48. Click on standard 48 kilohertz, and that should give you 4:3. So that's the aspect ratio, and 720 480. That should be pretty good. Yeah, let's do that one. So you click OK on that, and
Okay.
that's going to give you your sequence. And then what I would do, go into the other sequence, right? Select them all, Control C, go into your new sequence and paste them. And they should fit fine. Actually, they fit even tighter on mine, but
Yeah,
that's
they
fine.
fit in even tighter.
Yeah, but that's fine. But if everybody else don't worry about that. That's fine. If you got a little bit of black there, it's okay. Okay. And actually, now that I think about it, so I'm going to just close this second sequence. That worked out for you? Yeah. Okay, good. So also, let's go and name our sequence, right? When we drag that first clip. So you have your clips, and outside of that, you've got your sequence. Just name that, project 4. So it doesn't just have that, so it doesn't just have the name of that one clip. So project 4 sequence. That way you have that differentiated. Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions while we're kind of taking a look at that? Okay. All right. Let's forge forward. All right. And so we've got SOT 2, right? I'm going to position my playhead at the end of that. And the next one in the script is Caleb helps girls, right? Caleb helps girls, and that's at 1:14. Caleb helps girls. There it is. And this is an example. Look, this is B-roll, right? We don't have what we would call hard sound, like someone's not talking directly to the camera. This is going to fill out the sound bites, because what we're going to do is, once we do the rough cut, we're going to start chopping up these sound bites. We're not going to have to look at Caleb. Not that he's not a good looking guy or anything, he's a smart guy, but we don't have to only watch him when he talks. We're going to see some of this B-roll while he talks. Anyway, Caleb helps girls. The endpoint is 114. Hit enter. Playhead goes to that position. And the out is going to be 11:10. 11:10. Boom. The playhead jumps to that position. Mark it out. And then let me position my playhead in the right spot. And I will do an insert. And there it is. So we're just stringing these together. Excuse me. All right, next shot is shot 3, right? Makes sense. Shot 3, there it is, double click, and you can see this raw clip is like 34 seconds.
I'm thinking about that. I'm just gonna improvise.
So, when you interview people, they're not, professional speakers generally. So this is where your editing skills comes in, because you have to work around like and yeah, and somebody coughs in the middle of a sentence and maybe they restate the line, and everybody's got a different pattern how they speak, as far as like people who are, fine elocutionists, as we would say. Think of politicians. Some people are very metered, very, punctuated. Some people just keep talking, and and then everything in the middle. This is why this skill is very, very important. Okay, and all right, so Caleb helped girls. So the next one is SOT 3, and we look at the time code here. 6 seconds and 23 frames and 31 seconds. Yeah, so it's pretty long. So we'll go to 6:23, right? Hit enter, mark in. Then we'll go to 31:06. Hit enter. The playhead jumps almost to the end. Mark it out. My playhead is at the end of the previous clip, help girls or whatever, and boom, there it is. So there's SOT 3. Okay, I'm going to demagnify that and keep saving, right? Control S, Command S. And next now we're going to actually go to SOT 4. So here's where we're going to have to pick that SOT that you see on screen here. What I do is a team effort, and I want all of us to come out on top at the same time. So we don't have time code, so let's just play it through all the way, the 14 seconds, SOT 4.
See with me, I just don't want to be the one on the spotlight every time, and it's a team effort. What I do is a team effort, and I want all of us to come out on top at the same time, and I want other people to learn from what I.
Okay, so you could hear the SOT somewhere in there. So here's a couple of ways that you can do this. The easiest way to do this is to actually, right now, in this case, and as you get better at this, you'll just be able to just like mark it in and out. But you have the option here where you can avoid the video, right? You can find it. Here you can use your playhead. You can just drag it. You can also use your arrow keys, and these are your left, right arrow keys. Okay, so you don't have to like stop it while you're playing in real time, right? You can also use your JKL keys, right? L.
And it's a team effort.
You can see he says it's a team effort, but then he repeats it.
What I do is a team.
What I do is a team effort. So I'm using my arrow keys here. And you can listen with your ears. You can see where he's about to say what. You can also hold down those left, right arrow keys. Like I'm holding my left arrow key. Just hold it down and it will sort of play in slow motion. Then I go the other way with the right arrow key.
It's a team effort. What I do is.
So he's about to say what, and he also gives you a visual cue because he turns his head. But instead of just killing yourself here, you get as close as you can, and then you can click right here, this little audio only drag, this little icon. See, before we were on the video, and then you click on that. We've used this to drag music into the timeline, but now you just click on that, and it only shows you the audio. And now you can use these rings. You can actually magnify. So you're looking at, you're actually at the actual level, and you're looking at waveforms, right? Okay, and you can see right here, if you hit your arrow key, you can see that right there, he's about to say what. So you can mark that in, and you can refine it in a minute. if you hit your space bar,
What I do is a team effort.
so you can see that is where he says what. Now, if you need to magnify that, you can also use these go to in, go to out. You can go to in and put your playhead there and then magnify here by dragging these. And all of a sudden you can see that there's actually, if you listen to it in real time, when you just hit play, it sounds like you don't really have like, man, you have like no room there to make that edit. But when you magnify it here, you can see you've got like about 2 or 3 frames, which is an eternity in terms of editing, right? Because we're frame accurate, right? So that seems like it's probably a good position, okay? And now hit play, and then consequentially, I guess, the endpoint happens to be 7 seconds and 6 frames, but we didn't know that. We're not always going to have time code. We're not always going to be provided where exactly something happens. You have to use your ear and you use your technique and your skill to find that and make a clean mark, right? So you don't get like part of the last word or like an or like whatever makes it distracting. Okay. So that is so let's finish this. So we've got it here.
What I do is a team effort, and I want all of us to come out on top at the same time.
So you can see now, you can literally see what he's saying, and you can see here the end of it at the same time. It's right around here. So the playhead is in the position, hit O, and you mark it. So now you can use your play video into out that we dragged in on that, on the panel, right? We added it, and now we can confirm that if it's clean.
What I do is a team effort, and I want all of us to come out on top at the same time.
See, so it didn't keep going. So let's say I'm gonna mess this up on purpose. So I'm gonna magnify. You can also use your plus and minus key. So let's say I had marked it like in here, right? And I'm gonna check it here.
What I do is
Which isn't actually terrible, but let's say I came back, let's say I marked it here a little bit earlier.
What I do is a team effort.
You can kind of hear like a little bit of the last word, right? So I'm just bringing that in. It's really right around here, right? Right, so that's where we want to be. I'm going to in that little gap right there, right? Reset it and then play it back.
What I do is a team effort, and I want all of us to come out on top at the same time.
So it should be really clean. And now you can go back to video, and it respects your endpoints and everything. And now you can, insert it, or you can just drag it in, whatever you want to do, and boom. And then you can play it right back here in the timeline and make sure it's clean.
Cell phone news, pretty much everything's going to be on the internet. What I do is a team effort, and I want all of us to come out on top at the same time.
So so at this point, we've got 2 SOTs back to back, right? Anybody know what this visual, this is technically a mistake, but sometimes it can be used stylistically as one SOT ends and the next SOT begins. Watch his
Pretty
head.
much everything's going to be on the internet. What I do is a team effort.
Let me play it again.
News, pretty much everything's going to be on the internet. What I do is.
Anybody know what that's called? When that head just kind of like shifts?
Jump cut.
The jump cut, yes. Now, a lot of times over the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years, it's become sort of a stylistic technique, but it has to be intentional. Whereas in this case, if I just let that alone, that looks very amateur. So that's where we're going to use some of the B-roll to cover that jump cut. So you'll never know that there was an actual edit there in terms of what he was saying. Anyway.
Wait, Professor, can you clarify how that's different from just a regular cut?
Well, a regular cut would be, well, because his head shifts.
So is it like a sort of like a happy accident kind of cut?
Well, it's an unhappy accident. Right now, it's not an accident because we haven't finished, right? So we're just we're just doing the rough cut. But it's in terms of like an interview, that is not considered correct or clean. It looks amateurish. So what sometimes you can do, for example, if you wanted to have the head back to back, you can do, for example, there's like a dip to white in our effect, and then you would do an effect. Also editorially, you would, for example, in the news business, when we edit a soundbite from someone and they're speaking at the podium, whether it's the president or whoever it is, and we take part of a soundbite that's part of the first part, but then he or she or whoever said a bunch of stuff in the middle, and then we take the back end of what they said because we don't want to wait 15 seconds. We want to cut it down to like 6 seconds, and then we cut those pieces together. We have to acknowledge that we did an editorial decision because this is not what this person actually said, right? Because we lifted like 6 seconds out. So in terms of being clarity and being honest about what they said, you put in effect. A lot of times you put like a little flash, which is like that dip to white in our transition folder. You know, you make it like a 4-frame quick flash, and you see that. So that's intentional. Sometimes maybe you do like a little a little like wipe or something. Anyway, but here we're just going to actually cover that up with video later. Okay. So jump cuts can work fine, but it's usually done in this case. Let me just wrap this up, that this is
On the internet. What I do is
so that does not,
everything's gonna be on the internet. What
because you can see right here that the frame shifts. Okay. So you don't want to leave it like that because that would be considered a mistake, right? Aesthetically not clean, not professional. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Let's go ahead and finish the last shot here. So I'm going to position the playhead at the end of shot 4, right? Was everybody able to find that soundbite nice and clean? Because that's one of the most important parts of this whole project, because that's what I do every day. That's what every editor does, whether they're editing news, documentary, a movie, you know, this dialogue, a commercial, a corporate video, educate, you name it, you know, social media, just editing sound like that. You know, you have to be able to know how to do that. So that's very important. All right. Okay. So let's go back and add the last shot, which is group walk long. It's some of the students just walking down the hallway. Okay. And that is right here, group walk long. And it's about 27. We don't need the whole thing. So our endpoint is going to be at 10:15. Enter. Right? Mark that. And the out is 27. Pretty much almost at the end, right? Because this is actually going to wind up being the last shot in the piece. All right, let me go to 27 exactly. Okay, mark out. And then I'm going to position my playhead at the end of shot 4, Caleb. And I'm going to insert it. All right, and so now we've got everything in. We've got the B-roll shots. We've got the 4 shots, which is qualifies as A-roll, right? And the B-roll shots, we only have a few now, and that's B-roll. So now if you go to the very end and look at your script, you should be at, I'd say here, 129.13. What does the script say? Okay, 129.11, give or take a frame or two. Okay, depending on the frames per second. So you should be right around 129.11, 13 seconds for the rough cut. Okay. All right. I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to just kind of get to that point. If you felt like you did something wrong, if it's not timing out, you can always double check. And I think we covered this in project 1. If you want to double check all your edits, this is the easy way to do it. Mine is a bit short. Here's what you do, guys. Okay, everybody, let's go back in. So you pull up that first clip, right? You double click it, and it pulls it up in the project panel. I'm sorry, in the source panel. And also, if your rings were adjusted because you were like zooming in or out, just drag that all the way out, and then you'll see your endpoints. You can compare them to your script. For example, right? My playhead's just floating around, but if you want to check your in and out points, you can go to in, go to out. So go to in, 206 is my endpoint on this clip, and compare it to your script. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Hang on a second, let me go to the screen so we can see the script. Okay, right? And then go to your out point, right? Go to out. Mine says 901. Okay, so I know that clip is good, right? Check that. And then go to SOT1, double click it, right? And each one might be different because the rings might be this is basically a way that you magnify or demagnify. So pull that all the way out, right? Check your endpoint, 115. Yep, that's what the script says, right? 115. And then what's the out? The out says 802. Okay, so I know that's good. That's good. Okay, so that's how you check that. And you just go down the timeline and check each clip and make sure you've got that right. And then if for some reason something is wrong, let's say, for example, Caleb 3, let's say that was a little short, right? Right, so let's find one that has a mistake. Okay, let's double click it. All right, let me bring these rings out. Go to the endpoint, 623, that's SOT 3. According to my script, SOT 3 should be at 623. Okay, I'm good. And what's my out? Well, my out says 2913. What's the script say? The out says, 3106. So I'm 2 seconds short. Okay, so in this case, I need to extend this clip a little longer, right? So I'm going to move these clips off a little bit. I'm going to click and drag and just move those out. And I'm going to double click here and I'm going to reset my out point, right? Right now it's at like 2913. So my script says 3106, right? Hit enter, your playhead jumps to that position. And now you just reset the out. You can do it here or you can do it on your keyboard. And when you do that, you will see this extend to that point and you'll see it extend here in your timeline. And that's why you needed to move those clips over, because if that's butted up, it won't let you. So you want to create a little space, right? So mark out, boom. You can see that it extended it by a couple seconds and extended here. And so now you're good, right? So right click, ripple delete. And if it was too long, it's actually easier, right? So let's say this was too long, right? You know, by a couple seconds or so, right? And you, in this case, if it's too long, if you're going to make a clip shorter, you don't have to move the clips because you're going to trim them back. So here, for example, now I'm at like 33 seconds, right? So I would just type in what, 3106. The playhead jumps forward a little bit, reset the out. It actually makes it shorter. So now you just ripple delete and you clean it up. Okay? So that's damage control. All right? That's damage control. Let's take a look at the script here. And we'll do some of these next steps. Okay? So we're going to add a 5-second countdown, right? At the very beginning, and we'll just use the insert button, just like we did on Project 5. Okay. So I'm going to collapse my folder here and create that countdown, which is right click, new item. Where's the countdown? There it is, countdown. Okay, and you can see it's matching the dimensions, right? This is 720/480, which is traditional TV, standard definition, right? We've doubled that beyond, actually more than doubled that, right? We're 1920, 1080. And this, you can see the time base is different. This is 24 frames because this was shot in what's known as 24p, which was a really, really popular format, like in the 90s, early 2000s, with cameras. Anyway, so click OK. Right, you got your countdown. I'm just going to deselect these little sounds. I'm just going to leave it black and white. I don't care. That's fine. Okay, and then drag it into your source and cue it up to the 5 seconds, right? Which is actually 6. Okay, so just go to 5 where you see 5 on the screen, or you go to time code 6, right? So you don't even have to drag it. If you just click and you type in 600, hit enter, boom, and just mark an endpoint, right? There you go, countdown. Okay. And then you don't have to mark it out because it counts to 2 and goes to black. So then take your playhead and bring it back to the beginning, or you can hit the home key on your keyboard. And if it doesn't send it back to there, maybe because you have a numeric keypad, you have to like take out the number lock or whatever, or just grab it and just drag it back and you should see 0. Okay. Also,
Professor, sorry, could you repeat like how do you find the countdown? I
okay.
missed it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a new item. Okay, here, let me get rid of it here. Right? I did a right click, new item, or you would be what? Control click in the Mac, or you can do it
Oh, okay, like a command click in the so
before.
you have to be in the project window.
Yeah, project window. Yeah, you can
Okay.
also go here, new item.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You know why I couldn't find it is because my screen is a little smaller so I can look at Zoom too, so
Right.
it hit it. Yeah, okay. Thank
You
you.
can also go file. Again, it's Adobe. They give you usually 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5
Oh, okay, on the
ways to do
universal
it.
counting leader.
Yep, yep. Yeah,
Okay,
it's all over the place, right?
great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Well, I'll just use this one here, right? Boom, boom, boom. It's gonna match your video settings, right, as usual. I just take these off because I
You
find
didn't
it
have to
funny.
change the FPS.
No, because your
Uh,
sequence is 24 frames.
I thought you said it has to be 24 FPS.
Yeah, but this is look, when you go new item, okay, right? It asks you, do you want it to match? This is basically telling you, do you want this to match your sequence? And basically it's yes. You see,
Oh, okay.
it's 23.9. It's the same thing as like 29.97. It's 23.97.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is matching. This is going to be perfectly compatible with your settings. Okay. And then click OK. All right, and then I just drag them in because remember, if you double click it, it opens up the countdown again. So you have to like drag it into your source. And then just go to 600, literally just 600. Let me try that again. Oh, I disabled my number thing. So let me do it again. There it is. Boom. And you get 5, mark in. Boom. Right? And then your playhead, right? Make sure it's at the very beginning. And I just noticed this little, no, wait. No, that's fine. Never mind. Leave it alone. That should be highlighted in gray. You got your playhead at the very beginning. You should see 000 at the very beginning of your timeline here, right? And then just go ahead and insert it. Boom. There it is. See, let me magnify that. Oh, let me go into the timeline, into the sequence. And there's your countdown, right? Right? And then we go into a rough cut. Okay? All right. So we did that. Now we're going to increase the height of audio tracks 1 and 2, because we're going to do some audio editing. We're going to do some keyframing. All right. So, depending, everybody's got different screen space. So I'm going to push this up. I'm going to redistribute my tracks in my timeline because I don't really need a lot of video. I might make the video a little taller. And then I'm going to expand. I want to see audio 1 and audio 2 in my timeline. I'm going to make those a little taller. In fact, I might just push up the video a little bit. All right. And actually, maybe I will make that a little skinnier, so I can push that up. Okay. So you should be able to see both audio and 2 fully. You don't want to like have that like covered up. You see how audio 2 is kind of covered up, right? Redistribute that. Okay. Right. All right, so we've got, let me see, let me bring that a little better. Okay. So I can see the little icons. Anyway, I'm gonna make this a little small. Okay, there we go. So now, we go back to drag the audio from each B-roll clip, right? There's that term. Drag the audio from each B-roll clip down to audio track 2. Okay, so far we only have a few B-roll clips, so that would be Caleb Teacher. I'm going to magnify this so I can blow that up a little bit. And you literally just grab the audio and just pull it down, just straight down. Okay. Try not to like go to the left, and it's going to give you some resistance, right? Because we have this snap tool in place, but just grab it and just pull it straight down to 2. Right? Then you go Caleb Teacher Move, right? I'm going to slide over there and just pull that down. So you leave the SOTs, the audio for the SOTs on audio 1, right? Pull down 2, pull down to 2, and the last one is this the students walking in the hallway. Pull that down to track 2. Okay, so now you can see it starts looking a little different, and the reason we're doing this is because we're going to start overlapping audio, right? And we want to have the ability to mix those audios and fade down as one is fading up, etc., etc. Okay. So now
Professor, how did you is it just that the ones that aren't the interviews, those are always A roll?
Yes, those are A-roll. So the SOTs stay on audio 1.
So that's just standard. So
It
those ones.
depends. It depends. But generally, when you have the whole idea of having multiple audio tracks, it allows you flexibility. So for example, and you're going to see in a minute, because we're going to start doing the actual edit, because this way, this audio doesn't have to end when this audio begins, because if they were on the same track, then you would be really limited.
Right.
You see?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of having multiple audio tracks. You can mix stuff together. Something can fade down, something can come in. It's standard to at least have two tracks. Like when we work at work, I have all my natural sound. We do it on audio 1, the sound bites, and then the reporter, when they talk, they show up on 1, and then you have a voiceover, which is the narration, right? And then so you have narration and sound bites. But here we don't have the narration. The narration is actually first person, which is from Caleb. So he is essentially narrating it, but he's also on camera. So we don't have that third audio
Right.
element. right?
But I guess what I was asking too is the interview one that's always going to be the A roll?
It depends. It all depends on who you work for, but it's always going to
Oh,
be,
okay.
the
So
B
for
roll is
us,
going to be on one track, the A roll is going to be on a
okay.
separate track. So, for example, Nightly News does it the opposite. They put the reporter track on one, and they put like sound bites on two, and sometimes natural sound on two. And then depending what you have to do, sometimes you have to like kind of like do little tricks, but generally, yeah, there's two separate tracks for those different things. Yeah.
Okay.
But it all depends who you work for. They're gonna, pick what they want. All right.
Thank
Okay, so let's go back to the script and see what the next thing. So we move that audio down, keep SOD on audio track one, right? We did save. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so now we're going to add some of these additional insert shots, right? This is also B-roll. This is action. This is Caleb, like, he's working with some of his, fellow students. They're doing a show and they're preparing for stuff. And then here's a few techniques, shortcuts, and tools that we're going to work. We've used these already, right? Insert, overlay, play in and out. We did a little bit of this last week. And this is where we kind of watch the overall levels. We've done some trimming. We didn't do too much tonight. We're going to get into this, all this kind of stuff. Okay, well, we worked this, the up down arrow edits, snap to edits. All right, so here's what we're going to do next. So now we're going to here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with about a couple seconds of this teacher, right?
All I want to do is like.
And you can kind of hear Caleb saying something, all I want to do is something like,
All I want to do is like.
all right, so let's do this. This comes in at about 5 seconds.
All I want to do is like.
Let's go to about 6:15, right? On your time code, right? So it's 0, right? The countdown ends at 5. So what we would call first video, right? The first shot coming out of the countdown, right?
All I want to do
Right. So that's first video at 5 seconds. Let's go to 6.5 seconds, 6:15. Okay. All right. So just position your playhead there, and now we're going to use that technique I covered quickly last week, right? And we're going to come down to the time code. We're going to come down to audio 2. In fact, I'm going to even push this up a little bit more. I'm going to make this audio tracks even taller. Okay. And we're going to keyframe and drop. We're going to keep this level, and then we're going to drop it here. So on the PC, you want to hit your control key and hover your pointer on this line that you see, not this line, but this white line. Okay. Hit control. And when you hover your mouse on there, you get a little plus, and when you click, you put a little dot. That's a little keyframe. So on the Mac, it would be Command click, right? And then go forward, maybe like 10 frames, right? You get 6:15, go to about 7, right? You don't have to be perfect, but give it about 15 frames. If you want to magnify that, that gives you a little bit more control. Add a keyframe there, right? And now you've got 2 keyframes. So that gives you like a lever, right? And so now you go past that second keyframe and just grab anywhere past that second keyframe. You don't have to add another keyframe. If you hover your mouse and you get the very tip of the mouse on that white line, you can kind of see like this little bracket below it, like a little line with 2 arrows. Just click and pull it down. And you're going to see that little white window that says negative. It's got a negative value, and it says dB. That's decibel. This is how we measure audio levels. So let's bring it down to about 15 or 16, right? Ballpark. And so when you play that through, all right, I'm just going to preview that. I'm going to grab my playhead. I'm just going to hit my space bar right through there, right?
All I want to do is like get it with the voiceover.
And so what happens, right? It drops down. So it's becoming sort of background audio, all right?
Get it with the voiceovers.
We might even have to drop it some more. Now, if you want to do it, if you want to continue from there, you can select that audio, right, which is still connected to your video, and go up to effect control, right? You know, we're not doing motion effects, but you can see the keyframes you created here on volume, right? They call it volume. I wish they would call it level, but you can see level here. So you can see the second keyframe, I put it at like -16.4. And when you snap to the first keyframe, it's a 0, right? So that's basically showing you those two keyframes you just created in the timeline. Now, let's say maybe we want to drop that second one a little bit more. You could grab it here and just pull it down, but if you wanted to be more accurate, you know, jump to that second keyframe, click on it just like you would do in motion effects, and let's say let's do like -18, right? And then hit enter, and so that drops it a little bit lower.
Get it with the voiceovers.
So you can still hear him, but he's very low. Okay, so that's the basic technique of manipulating audio, like in the timeline with keyframing, right? And you can also pull it up here in the effects control, and you can see that as well, right? So there's different ways. A lot of times I'll just do it in here and then I'll just manipulate it. But sometimes if I can't get the level that I want, then I pull it up. I go into effects control and I jump to the keyframe and I set the value. So now you're wondering, why are we doing this? What's the point? I mean, and you can't really hear it, but that's why we're going to now bring in the SOT. So this is going to look radically different in a few minutes. All right, so here's what we're going to do. All right, so first off, let's see, we got that. All right, here's what we're going to do. So let's click on Caleb Teacher 2-Shot. Okay. And then you're going to right click. And I showed you this quickly last week when I was showing you if you download like a music video and you only want the audio, you could separate the video and get rid of it. We're going to do that, but we're not going to get rid of the video. We're going to change it. Okay. So we're going to right click and we're going to click unlink.
The screen's not sharing,
Oh,
Professor.
I'm sorry. Let's go back here. There we go. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to click on Caleb Teacher, and I'm going to get out of the effect controls because this doesn't have anything to do with that. Okay. So we're going to actually, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do both. We're going to right click and we're going to go in the menu here to unlink. Okay. You select that. And now when you do that, you'll be able to select the audio and the video independently. Okay. Now, at this point, it's not unsynced. So you don't want to move anything physically, but we are going to trim it a little bit. Okay. So we're going to go to video. We're going to leave the audio alone for now. And we're going to trim this back to about where that second keyframe is, approximately. You can go a little bit past it. Okay. So let me do that again, right? I'm going to undo everything. And also, whenever you are linked, you'll have a little V on your video track next to the name of the clip. You can see all these, they're all linked. They're linked by default, right? You have to unlink them. So I'm going to unlink again because I just undid everything. Boom. And I'm going to trim this back, just the video. I just hover on the end, right? We've done this before. You get that little red bracket. Pull it back to about where that second keyframe drops. Okay. And now we're going to take SOT1 Caleb, right? It's still linked, and we're gonna bring it in. Okay. And we're actually gonna line it up where the beginning of that SOT begins right after this keyframe. Right? Because at that point, the audio, the natural sound has dropped, but now we can bring in Caleb talking, and that won't compete with him. So we may have to raise his level a little bit, but that's the mix. So we're going to drag it over, right? And then you play it back, and you listen. You know, if the audio has dropped and then if he starts talking, then you want to be able to hear him. All right, and then we'll refine this even more. Let's go back to the back to beginning.
All I want to do is like get it. As a freshman, when I came into high school.
All right, so you can hear. Right now, we're checking audio.
Get it. As a freshman, when I came into. Get it. As a freshman, when I.
We could even bring it closer, right? And I'm going to actually bring it kind of almost like the beginning of the side. It's almost like in the middle of that. As that drops, right? So it's not competing with the soundbite, okay?
Do is like get it. As a freshman, when I came into high school. Get it. As a freshman, when I came into high.
That's not bad. Although he's a little loud right here, so I'm actually gonna pull him back a little bit, okay?
Get it. As a freshman, when I came in.
Okay. So there you go. All right, and so maybe we drop this a little more because he's got a little sound here. So I'm going to go to that second keyframe. Maybe drop it to like -19. Sometimes there's just very subtle changes. Okay, so now.
Get it. As a freshman, when I came into high school, I knew how to do it.
There you go. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Right here, I hear him say like, "Get it?"
Get it.
Yeah.
Get it.
So that's distracting. So I'm gonna bring him in before he makes that sound. If you look at your track here, magnified a little bit, you can see that little mountain on that second keyframe. So again, this is the stuff you see on TV, and it lasts 1.5 seconds in 2 minutes, but it's you know, it's been taken several hours. Right, so I'm going to bring him in before that happens. That way it'll be cleaner.
As a freshman, when I came into.
There you go. That's pretty good.
As a freshman, when I.
You can also grab that keyframe and drag it earlier. Right? So there's all kinds of options here.
Like, as a freshman, when I came into high school.
There you go.
I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was like pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it.
Okay, so we're going to leave the audio okay, right? Let me pause for a minute. We'll get through this edit and maybe the next one, and then we'll stop so we can talk 5. Is this making sense to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
So far, so good.
Yeah. So the initial edit was just stringing this together, but now we're really going to like stack this up. This is going to start looking like a puzzle, right? Pieces are going to just fit, and we're going to create holes, but we're going to fill those holes. All right. All right. So let's keep going. Okay. All right. So now we actually don't want to see him the minute he starts talking. Okay. So now we're going to unlink the video on SOT1, right? The video and the audio, right? So we're going to right click on SOT1, somewhere in there, right? Unlink. And we're going to trim back the video. We're going to not trim the audio because the SOT is correct, right? That's what we want to hear right there.
As a freshman, when I came into high school, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was like pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it.
Okay, right. But we want to maybe see a little bit of this video more as the first shot. So we're going to like go to the point
As a
here.
freshman, when I came into high school.
Okay, so let's go to the point where he says, as a freshman,
As a freshman, when I came into high school.
I went into high school.
Freshman, when I came into high.
And so you can drag the playhead and you can listen to the audio. Right?
Freshman, when I came into high school.
Right? You can see he says high school. right? Right around there. And now your playhead represents where he says that, and you trim back the video, all right? And I want to make sure everybody really understands the difference between trimming and moving, right? Let me undo that for a minute. You're not moving it. You're not repositioning it, because if you do that, guess what happens? You're going to be out of sync.
School, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was like pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it.
And as you can see, his lips don't match the audio. And so that's another big mistake. And now, you know, if you're making the old 70s martial art movies where they were all out of sync, yeah, that could be fun, but we're not doing that here. So we're pulling this back. High school, right in there, right where when he says high school. So we're going to trim this back. So it's basically about 2 seconds, right? And I'm going to trim back to that point. So now, what do you suppose we do? We extend this because the audio is still underneath, and we're going to extend that to meet that edit. And so what you're seeing here is what's called a split edit, right? We actually have two different endpoints for this SOT. The audio, right, starts earlier, but we don't see the video till a little bit later. But we do want to reveal who is talking because this is the first shot in the piece. So this is technical. This is a technical decision, but it is also an aesthetic decision, an editorial decision, right? So now let's just play that back for a minute.
All I want to do is as a freshman when I came into high school, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it.
Okay, so you can see it's a little bit more dynamic. Instead of it being perfectly linear, like one shot ends, one shot begins, you sort of overlap them, and it has a different flow. And this is, next time you watch a news piece, you'll see this incorporated all the time in documentaries. And it's just a basic technique, but it's a really important technique. All right, so now, since this video ends here, and she's still unlinked, right? And you can relink it, but we don't need all this audio after that shot ends, and we're only hearing Caleb. So trim back the audio from Caleb teacher, right? Pretty much to the point where, you know, that shot ends, because we don't need it underneath Caleb. It's okay to hear a little bit of sound under Caleb here because we still see that video. So we want to justify some of that audio, but as soon as that shot is done, we're only hearing Caleb. We don't need that audio, right? So I just trimmed it back, right? Because it was still extended here. And I trim it back to about the end where that shot ends. And then if you want, you can go back, select that, hit Control or Command, you can do Shift, click the video, hold Shift, and then click the audio again, and then right click, and then you can link it, right? So if it says link, it means it's unlinked. If it says unlinked, it means it's linked. So now link it, and now you're good, right? So you don't have to worry about, you know, throwing that out of sync, right? And the same thing with Caleb now. We've done the edit to be careful that you're not going to accidentally move that and throw it out of sync. Click on that, click, hit Shift and click, or you can also, since you have a little hole here, just drag and select those two layers, right click and link it.
Professor, I have a question. When with the linking, can you link audio and video that was not originally linked?
Yeah, you can do anything you want. You can do all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That would have been so
I mean,
helpful for my
you
last
could-
project. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So once you get it
phrase-
to where you want.
yeah, my phrase is that video and audio are not necessarily always married, right? You know, they're dating, but you know, I probably don't even get into that. But anyway, so the idea is, you know, you're not. I mean, in this case, right? It's what he's saying. So there's really not a lot of options that you would want to put unless you wanted to, you know, one of those funny videos where you would like, I forgot what those was called years ago. And they synced up pretty good. And you would have like a really goofy voice on somebody who was like a celebrity. And I can't remember what those words, but anyway, but yes, the bottom line is nothing is completely, you can unlink anything and relink anything you want. Okay, so, all right, so you can see it starts, this starts looking a little different, right? Now we have a huge hole here, right? So now we're going to come out of Caleb and we're going to go right into this as a hard edit, and we're going to do a natural sound pop. We're going to hear the teacher break up the next SOT because we want to hear her talking to Caleb. Okay, so let's do a right click to ripple delete, right? Because she's already where she needs to be, right? So we're going to come out of Caleb.
Shoot something and have fun with it.
Do they still have to capture more B-roll, or they have enough?
So you hear that? So that is an example of a natural sound break where it's very distinct. She's talking to Caleb. So we're breaking up, instead of having those SOTs back to back, there's this constant, just narration. You break it up with these natural breaks, right? And so this would be a natural sound pop, right? So now we're going to have her keep her up full.
Do they still have to capture more B-roll, or they have enough?
So, and that's where she says it, right?
Do they still have to capture more B-roll, or they have enough?
And then it's visually, you can see right there, there's like a huge valley here, right? So now we just, after she says, whatever,
B-roll, or they have enough?
they have enough. And she's saying B-roll. Listen to what she said.
Do they still have to capture more B-roll, or they have enough?
See, so I'm not lying to you. These are real terms, right? So she says, have enough. And so you go past, she says enough, a couple frames. And now you can add a couple keyframes, right? And you can see that Caleb is going to start talking. So maybe bring that keyframe a little bit back and then drop it. Let's go down to about like 18, 19, even 20, right? And if you want, pull it up. There it is, right? It's in the effects control, right? Go to the second one. You can see Caleb teacher move. I'm going to do like -20, right? All right. And so now,
Do they still have to capture more B-roll, or they have enough?
right? So we drop, and then now we're going to bring in SOT, the SOT 2, which is longer, right? So let's go ahead and right click and unlink SOT 2, right? We'll keep Caleb teacher linked, right click, unlink. And let's listen to Caleb, and then we're going to decide where we show him. So we don't want to show him right at the top, because what happenings here is I'm tilting up. So we want to let this shot go all the way up and at least establish Caleb and the teacher talking to him. So we need a few seconds, but we don't leave this up, because this would be dead air.
They have enough.
Right? As soon as the net drops, it drops, that's like dead air. You need to like introduce more information. So we're going to hear Caleb.
As the years went on, I got to come in the studio.
Okay. All right. So as the years go on.
As the years went on, I got to come in the studio, use some of the TV stuff we have. We got to use the digital cameras. We actually got to use mixers, audio boards, and stuff like that. And that actually deepened my interest.
Okay. So we're going to like cut him out a lot. All right. And then we'll end after this clip.
The digital cameras, we actually got to use mixers, audio boards, and stuff like that. And that actually deepened my interest.
Okay. So that's
like that. And
so we're gonna trim this back to this point where he says, and that actually deepened my interest. So when you edit, you have to listen, right?
Stuff like that, and that.
Right, and he says it right there. That
actually deepened my interest.
That actually deepened my interest. So I'm going to put my playhead there, and I've already unlinked. So I'm going to drag SOT. I'm sorry, not drag, trim. Right, I didn't reposition it. I just shortened it. Right, and so we're only going to see the last couple seconds of this soundbite.
And that actually deepened my interest in
But
it.
that's okay because we've established who that is, right? So if you want to be safe now you can drag over SOT 2 and the video and audio, right? Select them. Yeah, you just literally click, hold down your mouse and drag over it, right click and link it. And so now you're safe that you're not going to actually,
That actually deepened my interest.
all right? And so now now you can move that together, right? And you're going to start that audio at that second keyframe, more or less, right? So we slide that in, right? I'm going to bring my playhead here. I'm going to magnify that. And I can still grab the audio because it's linked. It will still move Caleb, right? But you want to magnify so you can get more accurate, right? So let's see. So you hear the gnat.
Or they have enough.
And as the years went on,
See? All right. So there's
To capture
the
more
next
B-roll,
day.
or they have enough.
and as the years went on,
So we're going to go all the way through as the years went on. So now we're listening to his, response.
and as the years went on,
And at that point, the shot has tilted up. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you are thinking about. And when you watch these things, now hopefully this will make, you'll look at these things differently. All right.
And as the years went on,
Okay, so the camera has stabilized. Now we can actually trim this back. So we let that shot, pan out, or tilt
Do they
out.
still have to capture more B-roll, or they have enough?
and as the years went on, I got to
And now we're going to cover this hole with some of those new shots because now he's describing stuff and it's much more interesting. He's a smart guy and everything, but if we can show what he's talking about instead of just looking at him, that's better video. That's better storytelling, right?
They have enough.
And as the years went on, I got to come in the studio, use some of the TV stuff we have.
Yeah, and there he's talking about coming into the studio, using the TV stuff. So now we're going to go to some new clips, right? We're going to go to this clip, Caleb Control Room, right? So pull that up. And this is about a 15-second shot. You can sort of scrub through that, right? And when you shoot stuff like this, you shoot a lot of junk, right? Because you want to be ready when you are going to get what you want. So you're getting a super quick videography lesson. I know it's already 49. Okay. Anyway, let's do this. So we're gonna use the endpoint here just as this girl walks into the monitor, which is about like 2:15, right? So let's mark in on 2:15.
Your screen's not sharing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So let me reset that. So we're pulling up this Caleb control room, right? And we're getting out here. Right?
And as the years went on,
So this was extended all the way here, right? We pulled it, we trimmed her back
went on, and as the years went on,
as the years went on, and the shot has stabilized. We're going to trim that back. We're going to go to Caleb control room, and our endpoint is just as this girl walks into the monitor. So let's just call it 2:15. Okay, mark in, and then we're using that, and then we pan over, and there's Caleb. And then he says something. Let's go to about 9. Let's go to about 9 seconds. Okay. So we'll go to 09. Mark the out. And now here's what we're going to do. So here's where we can use the target tracks. Okay. So now if I drag this down, it's going to want to put that audio. Let me de-escalate here, not escalate. Let me show a wider view. Okay, so if I bring this down, it's gonna kill that audio, right? We don't want to do that, right? We want the audio to actually go to 2. The video is 1. So here's what we do. We click here and we bring that little blue tab down to 2, right? Which targets audio 2. So now, even though this wants to put it on 1, when I drag this down, it goes to 2. It doesn't fight me. And then we butt it up against that previous shot, right? So we come out of the teacher.
As the years went on, I got to come in the studio, use some of the TV stuff we have. We got to use a digital camera.
Okay, so now he starts talking about right around at 20 seconds of the timeline, he talks about working with cameras.
We got to use a digital camera.
Okay, so let's cut this. So we brought in right behind the teacher. Okay. So you go past that little audio, trim that back. You don't have to unlink him, but you do have to drop his audio, right? Because that natural sound is pretty loud and it's competing with his soundbite, right?
Years went on, I got to come in the
Okay,
studio.
all of a sudden it's really loud. So you don't have to keyframe it, just pull it down and it makes a uniform adjustment. So now you keep that natural sound at a pretty even level.
Went on, I got to come in the studio, use some of the TV stuff we have. We got to use a digital camera.
Okay, so now he's talking about working with digital cameras. So that Caleb control room shot was, I can look at the duration that, yeah, it was only about 4 seconds. Yeah, because we came in at like 2 something. So we shortened it up a little bit, right? But we show what he's talking about, right? So now we're going to go to do a save. This will be our last edit and then we'll wrap up and maybe we can just talk for 5 minutes on project 5. Okay, cam computer. Okay. So he's talking about working with cameras. So we have these other students. It's not him, but we have other students working with cameras and that stuff. So one thing to watch here is there's an exposure adjustment here. It's very subtle. And we don't want to include that. So we want to go just past that. So let's go to like 5 seconds. Right? Mark, you're in. And let's see how long we have here for this hole. It's probably going to be about, we can see that at about 21 seconds. And this comes about 25. So it's barely 4 seconds. So let's go to about 9. Right? Let's go to 9. Mark the out. And we still have the target tracketed audio target. The audio tracked to the targeted 2, right? Bring it down. See, it does the same thing. Puts it on 2. Drop that audio because you don't want it to compete. And now we come out of Caleb in the control room.
We got to use the digital cameras. We actually got to use mixers, audio board, and stuff like that.
And then now you have a little bit of a hole, so you could extend that video. So we don't have a black hole. You don't want a black hole.
And stuff like that, and that actually deepened my.
See? And then we cut back to him, and he finishes his statement.
And that actually deepened my interest
Professor,
in television, and then it just kept on building.
Yes, sir.
what was the in for the cam recorder?
It was like 5, and then out was like 9. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So let's just take a look at that little section. We'll end here. So let's save. Let's just look at the first few seconds of this piece. Right. Right. We have a hole here, but we'll finish that the second half of this next week. Right. So we come in.
All I want to do is as a freshman when I came into high school, I knew how to do nothing. All I knew was pick up a camera, go shoot something, and have fun with it.
Do they still have to capture more B-roll or they have enough?
As the years went on, I got to come in the studio, use some of the TV stuff we have. We got to use the digital cameras. We actually got to use mixers, audio board, and stuff like that. And that actually deepened my interest in television. And then it just kept on building.
All right. So you can see how much different it looks, right? Initially, it was all lined up, and now we've got all these different parts to it. But aesthetically, the idea here is obviously technique, but it also keeps the story moving. You know, it doesn't feel too static where it's just like this guy talking on the camera. You want to like fill that out, make it more dynamic, show what he's talking about. And so that's why, you know, a news piece that you watch on nightly news or whatever channel, or whatever network, it might run for 2 minutes, but they've worked on that thing potentially for like 8 hours. And there may have been like 34, 45 minutes, several hours of footage that was used, and they only include like 30 seconds of that in that piece. And imagine a documentary. All right, so I'll leave it at that. I want to point you to the Project 5 stuff. Okay. And I want you to take a look at this. I can email you the project sheet, but it's here. So go to course content, right? And I have it all the way down at the bottom just before the Zoom session. Project 5 materials. Here's the assignment sheet. Take a look at that. We'll talk more about this in detail next week. It's worth 60 points. You can use multiple audio tracks. You can use music. You can do narration, etc. Here's some basic examples. And this will be due, forget the July 2nd. That's like from a summer class. So this will be due May 12th. I can update that. Anyway, and here's some other details. And here's a breakdown of the rubric. All right, so take a look at that. And hang on a second here. Okay, let's go back to content. Here's some, again, you're going to have to include a proposal. So there's some samples, some previous samples. So you can have that. Here's some Project 5 goals, right? Right. So this is your final project. Here's student sample videos. All right. So you can watch these. For example, some of these are up to 5 minutes. So this might be like 7 different videos, and they're all very different, right? People can shoot your own stuff. They can combine stuff with stuff you've shot, you've downloaded. You can use Photoshop, etc., all that stuff. So there's a lot of material here. All right, so I want you to take a look at that so you can start thinking about that, and then make sure that you've got Project 4 at least to where we have it, and then we'll finish that next Monday, and then we'll move into Project 5, and we'll get into a little bit more of the Adobe stock, and I want to definitely cover the graphic templates that we haven't had a chance to get into. Okay.
We
All
can
right.
use downloaded videos for Project 5.
Can you what now?
Downloaded videos for Project 5.
What do you mean downloaded videos? You mean the samples?
No, I mean like for Project 5.
Oh, can you download video and use it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You can take a look at some of the samples. Okay. That should hopefully answer a number of questions. Project 5 is like wide open. Okay. There's not that many limitations on it.
Okay, cool.
So it's not like Project 3, you could only use stills. No, Project 5, you can use stills and videos. You can combine stills and videos. You can create your own graphics, just like you could do on 3. But now you can, download videos, you can use videos. There's also some stock video in Adobe Stock, and we can talk about that. So take a look in there, but I can show you some stuff. I have some stuff that I've downloaded, and I could always email it to you. It's like a lot of aerial stuff, just cool landscapes and that kind of stuff. So you never know. But yeah, it's wide open. Take a look at those materials. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Is there a minimum duration? I think the minimum is maybe 3.5 minutes. Yeah, let me look real quick. What does it say? Why do I always lose Blackboard? There it is. Okay. Hang on. I think it's about 3.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there it is. Hang on. Yeah, let me pull it up here. Yeah, take a look at this. Oh, it says 3 minutes. So 5 minutes long, 3 minutes. And that's including credits. So you can pad, if you're running a little short, you can pad it with some credits, just like you could do on project 3.